dressed today because yesterday I had on a really drunk looking t-shirt, and even one of my viewers who usually likes how I look, told me I was looking wild. So I took off the my work off t-shirt and put on something I had and kept on what I had on earlier today, which is this my little Bruce Wayne 1989 Batman turtleneck. And no, it's not actually from Batman 1989. I just said that because it's similar turtleneck that he wore. So I'm going to continue with my meta topic, which is correctly politically incorrect, which I started a few days ago. And we're going to move on, but it's going to be related to the past two discussions in this meta topic. So again, the meta topic is called correctly politically incorrect. Shout out to Moonlit Fern who gave me that suggestion for the name of this meta topic. So each day I'm going to broach on something different, something very controversial, and give my take on it. And like I said before, I'm probably going to disagree with both sides of the discussion. Where most people land is usually on two sides. I'm going to disagree with both and give my nuanced position on both. So, what's up, Just a Dude? So, the first one I did several days ago was on gender, and I said that it's not really a social construct, and that the way the term social construct used is wrong-headed anyway. Then I came on, and then the following, the day after that, I did race and intelligence, and I kind of broke down both race and intelligence, and again described why neither one of those are actually social constructs. They both have biological reality to them, and I talked about how they interrelate with each other, because one of the biggest problems for people accepting that these things are inherently real is because of the confluence of scientific racism um, that measure people's inherent worth by their intelligence and then said that intelligence is innate to different racial groups. So we went into all of that. So today, I'm just going to go into the concept of social constructs itself, because as long as people keep using it incorrectly, we're going to keep having these muddled discussions. Um, New Yeet says no volume. I'm pretty sure my volume is up. If can everyone else hear me? That might be just your side. Um, P1 says hi. Lori says hi. What's up? If anyone else can't hear me, let me know. So things are looking swell on my end, guys. Thank you, Just a Dude. I'm about to enjoy some iced coffee. Uh, I ran my I ran this morning, and then right afterwards shoveled a lot of snow. For people who aren't on the East Coast, we had a nor'easter here, and it started snowing again this evening, just a few hours ago, and it's coming down harder. Pause, but I assume that it's going to be caked up on the streets and sidewalks when I wake up in the morning. So I was going to do a second run. I still may, but we'll see. No problem, Eats. It was probably just on your end mistake. Sometimes I do make a mistake and cover up the speaker, or I'll hit the volume button accidentally. So that's why I always ask everyone in the chat room if they can hear me, because if not, I know it's on my end. Someone Mokai20 says, "Can you help me, please? I need money. Go get a fucking job. Or if you can't do that, you better make that mouth work. Yeah, make that mouth work. Make them cheeks clap, or go sell some drugs, something. I ain't giving you no money over here, bro. You better go somewhere with that e-begging shit." Anonymous says, "Don't smoke, son. Not good for you." First of all, I ain't knowing your son, bitch. We don't tell your mother stop smoking dicks every day, do we? Because we know she gotta make that money to keep food on the table for you. You peasant. You're probably like 14 or 15. take your little bitch ass Gen Z somewhere else. Go go rattle someone else's tires because Travis says I'm old head. Yeah, I'm an old head, but I can beat your ass, and I'm smarter than you. I look better than you. I've traveled the globe. I run every day, distance, and you can't do shit about it. You can't fuck with me. I'm in Baltimore, so you can never bang them tools where I live. So go suck a dick, Travis. Anyway, I'm not getting anonymous says why are you getting aggressive as a harmless comment. I'm not getting aggressive. I'm showing you that you're not gonna troll me. First of all, I'm older than you, so you should be showing me respect just off of that alone. When I was your age, I wouldn't dare talk to someone older than me out of pocket like you little dumbass motherfuckers do. You need to go suck a dick somewhere, you little low testosterone, low IQ Gen Z retard faggot. That goes for anyone else. If I'm being aggressive, understand I'm Generation X. We don't give a fuck about any of you bitch ass motherfuckers. We hate every other generation. We don't like baby boomers. We don't like millennials, and we definitely don't like Gen Z. You soft ass, fucking entitled fucking generation. If you don't want aggression, then don't bring it. Don't throw a jab if you don't want to get right cross like that. Otherwise, get the fuck off my channel before I ban you. No one comes to your house kicking dicks out of your mouth while you're trying to work. So I said, I don't even smoke, don't drink. So the advice was pointless. It wasn't, and you weren't giving advice. You were trying to troll, bitch. Don't try to back down now. Stand on your square. That's what's wrong with you little faggot, soft ass Gen Z in the first place. Jason says, or else start a YouTube channel, ask for donations. Exactly. If he want to beg for money, he can go. If he want to e-beg, do it the proper way and become a content creator. um, Travis is why your mama blah 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 blah. Oh, you want to talk about mamas, son? You want to talk about mamas? Oh, okay, okay, all right, chat. We got someone trying to talk about mamas to a Generation X. Oh, it's on now. Oh, it's on now, bro. I know you're not talking about mothers. I mean, you just came out of your mother, bitch, like a fucking orangutan. I mean, I would have been your father, but that motherfucking macaque beat me up the steps. That prehensile tail makes him as fast as shit, boy. Your father was a fast ass monkey. He was like, I'm fast as shit, boy. Couldn't get past him. He rotated all up in your mom, but we took turns. The whole block took turns on her. She know how to do it right. Clap them cheeks. She be like left cheek, right cheek, left cheek, right cheek, left cheek, right cheek, left cheek, right cheek. Swirl them up, swirl them up, swirl them up, then swallow. That's your mama all day, Travis. That's your mama all day, Travis. Travis Ingram. That's your mother all day. Right cheek, left cheek, right cheek, left cheek, right cheek, left cheek. She look. Her Google Calendar is filled with all the dicks from 9 to 5. And I'm not talking about from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. I'm talking about 9 to 5 dicks in her at one time. She almost says his bottom teeth is cooked. Well, like you cooked that crack, Chilmo. Mm-hmm. Your mom's the number one customer, ain't she? What's up, Jay? Before I go on these clowns, J.A.C, what's going on, bro? We just heard your prime minister resign, bro. What's going on? What's going on, Jay? Your prime minister resigned, huh? We might have to talk about that on a separate live stream. This one is gonna be about my topic for the day. But yeah, we gotta get into that, man. Oh, Howard says, "What's the topic tonight, brother? What's going on, Howard?" So it's another part of my meta topic, which is correctly politically incorrect. So since the last two, I've talked about how these alleged phenomena are being called social constructs, gender, race, and intelligence. I broke them down, show why they aren't actually social constructs in the way that people define it, and that they are being wrongheaded because they try to use social construct and then they try to use it as a real thing at the same time, and it doesn't mesh. So I'm just going to get into the concept of social construct itself, since people use it as a getaway, a getaway from jail card for like uncomfortable subjects. So we're going to just break down social constructs itself and show why people use it um, wrongly. So that's the topic, bro. And I'm just gonna start banning people. Anonymous is who would listen to a disrespectful person like you. Apparently you would, because you still here, you dumb bitch. You would. You answered your own question by leaving a comment, dummy. This is what I'm talking about. You Gen Z are so fucking retarded. You're low IQ. You don't realize you're perpetuating your own comment. You said who would be here to stick around to listen to disrespectful shit like what I would say. You would, dummy. Anonymous says you don't respect women. No, I don't respect your mother, Anonymous. That's why I don't respect. The bitch stinks. You know what I'm saying? You you fuck her, you fall in. Like a ho, a ho, a ho, a ho, a ho, a ho, a ho. Scribbled on the inside of her pussy says Columbus was here. You plan to be a leader when you can't respect? Shut the fuck up, you faggot. Ban me. Ban yourself. Why don't you ban these nuts in your mouth? How about that? Ban these nuts in your mouth. What's up, Agatha? So for all my moderators coming in, if someone gets out of pocket like some of these little clowns are, don't even time them out. Just ban them. We in 2025, we're not dealing with these little incels. He said, "I guess you have mental issues. Go to a psychiatric, bro. It's a psychiatrist, dumbass, not psychiatric, dummy. And you're the faggot who has your username is anonymous because you can't hold down your real identity. By the way, I actually have a background in psychology, dummy. What I am doing is something quite typical of my generation. We don't give a fuck. You might want to look up Generation X. And that goes for the rest of you little trolls and incels. Maybe look up what Generation X is, and you'll realize why we don't play with you little young ass faggots. If you want respect, give it. If you want respect, give it. You don't come talking to someone who's 10, 20 years older than you out of pocket and expect them to give you respect. You little fatherless single mother raised bitch ass faggots need to respect other grown men, and then you'll get respect in return. Yes, I take pride in not giving a shit about you because you're a faggot, you're a pussy, you're weak, soft ass, bitch ass made Generation Z retard. And no matter how, and if you really, and guys, if he really didn't care, why does he keep coming back in my chat even though my moderator keeps banning him? He keeps getting banned, he keeps coming back. What does that say about him? Here's the thing, guys. Here's the thing. Don't ask for respect if you're gonna come here and troll someone. We're not putting up with this shit. Plain and simple. And then you projecting, oh, why is he being so aggressive? Because you're being a bitch. Actually, you gotta ban them like this. Because they're gonna keep coming back. That little faggot keeps coming back under different usernames because he has nothing else better to do with his life. He's an incel. Creole says you're a old bitter black man. My dad used to beat nerds up like you. Well, tell him to come try. Both. Why don't you Creole, you and your father, come try to beat me up? A guy who's been studying martial arts for 30 years, an army veteran, and I do Muay Thai. I run at least 10 kilometers every day. I will beat the dog shit out of you and your father and everyone in your fucking DNA line. And I clap those tools. And I'm in Baltimore, so good luck. Good luck coming to Baltimore. Howard Clay says, "I'm gonna get off my I'm gonna get off my lawn boomer." I know, right? I I'm glad I own a home now, Howard, just so I can be able to say that one day. The funny thing is, where I actually have a house overseas, we all our neighbors are cool. It's only here it's only here that we deal with the disrespect. Young the young Filipinos don't act like that. Young Filipinos are respectful as hell. It's these little perk Molly and perk using Gen Z faggots with their little broccoli haircuts and painted fingernails wearing man purses talking about why you not being respectful to me. Creole says come to LA then. I've been to LA, bro. Here's the thing. I'm respected in LA because I don't act like a bitch, Creole. You're a bitch. That's why you'll be disrespected anywhere you go. I've been all over the world. Where the fuck have you been outside of LA, bitch? My dad is Marine. I don't give a fuck. Fuck your dad and fuck you. I respect the Marines, but I don't mean I give a fuck about you or your dad. If he's beating up nerds, it's a whole different day and time, bitch. Come beat this nerd up. Come beat this nerd up. Come beat this nerd up. My daddy. What kind of faggot grown ass man talking about my daddy? Like, come on, chat. Am I wrong? What kind of grown man talking about my daddy does this? My daddy does that. You're a grown man. Why are you talking about your daddy is gonna defend you? The fuck is wrong with you? Even at 13, I wouldn't have said some shit about my daddy. Dude is off. These dudes are out of pocket. So, and like, great, your father's a Marine. Why don't you go serve? You'll learn some respect. So I guarantee your father wouldn't be his father wouldn't be disrespecting older folks after his training in the Marines. Guarantee this is some little broccoli haired kid, 18 or younger, painted fingernails, man purse, pants so tight they will blow apart if he farts, talking about respect. Probably has tickle fights with his homeboys. Let me stop. Uh, he said, Dimitri says, probably a kid up past his bedtime. I hope so. Even still, bro, at 13, come on. At 13 or 14, we were not talking about our daddy will beat you up. Word? All right. I mean, because I'm from Baltimore, like 13 or 14 year olds would chop up a grown man. Not that I'm proud of that aspect of Baltimore by any means, but I'm just saying, like, if someone said to another teenager in the 90s, well, I'm gonna get my father. All right, we're gonna chop him up too. Like that's not a thing. It was crazy. Like they really don't know what we did when we were in the 90s. It's a good thing we didn't have camera phones and social media back then. That's all I'll say. How is his life is pretty good though. A small town Iowa. Got my wife for 43 years. Oh, that's what's up, man. And all my grandkids right here love your channel, man. Thank you, man. I appreciate that a lot. Oh, you had to time out Dennis. Agatha. Dennis is on our side here. Let me unhide that. This Dennis, I think Dennis is a good guy. But I appreciate you. But I appreciate you, Agatha, for being on. on alert though. But nah, he unless he said something at the bottom that I missed. And by the way, Agatha says like, share, and subscribe, guys. Oh, he said, yeah, I'm with you. I know, I understand. My moderator was just protecting me. That's all. Um, Agatha's a sweet person. Um, one of my female mods. I learned. I understand now why in the movie Black Panther he was surrounded by female bodyguards because I don't know something. Female bodyguards or moderators will look out for you. I'm telling you. He said she got your back. We all need them. Exactly. Thank you. Pablo says your name. Nah, it doesn't even work. He thought he was gonna get me. Good try though. Good try. Good hustle. Joshua says hello from the West Bank in New Orleans. What's up, Joshua? Are you guys safe in New Orleans right now with all that stuff that went down last week? Yeah, you guys good? We got that Bengali guy running around causing havoc. So hope everyone in your circle is safe. Just a dude says I'm a millennial, but even we didn't use the word daddy in reference to our father. I know, right? How you're growing? I was like I said, I don't even care if he's a teenager. That's still out of pocket. I did not call my father daddy when I was any 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 age after 13. I'm nah. Like, but I don't know. Maybe his daddy for someone else. You know what I'm saying? We don't know. Dennis says females got serious radar. Most definitely. Jesse said talked about bro back in the day that needs protection in your YouTube live. No, Jesse, you don't get it. See, moderators are here to keep the chat room from going into disarray. Rest assured, I can clap back at anyone with the best, but I want to get onto my topic, so my moderators keep things in focus, so I can do that. And I didn't say what I say about back in the day. I was talking about the sort of chaos that we had to live with compared to your generation. That's what I was talking about. Rest assured, I'm much more dangerous at this current age than I was back then. But only an idiot would tell you exactly why. Anyway, Revenge Buddhist is like female lions, exactly. Howard says hello to Agatha. Jesse says, did you call him Zaddy? Negative. That would be a no go. Michael says, hey, cuz. Agatha says, remember I told you I'm thinking of joining the Secret Service? I don't remember you saying that. Secret Service? Oh, so that's probably why you are making those moves to the UK and all that stuff. Okay. I mean, if so, that's what's up. I have I have a friend there in the Secret Service. I don't know if he's still there because he joined up. What is it now? 2025. He joined up about 20. He joined up about 22 years ago now, so he might be. He may have left the Secret Service by now. But I have a Vietnamese friend you can look up, Ed Nguyen. Um, I always am I saying it right, guys? Is it Nguyen? A Nguyen? I always say it wrongly. The that Vietnamese last name that almost all of them have. But yeah, I have a buddy that was in the Secret Service. I don't know if he's still active though, if he's still serving. But if you do go, look him up. He's a really good guy. Pretty sure he tell him you know me, and I'm sure he'll look out for you. I know it takes at least a year just the process. So if you said you were thinking of joining the Secret Service, I don't know if you've already started it or not, but it's going to take like at least a year just for them to go through your background and do all that other sort of stuff. I think working for the Department of State takes even longer because one of my friends was telling me to do that several years ago, but he was warning me it was going to take about 2 years to process. I'm like, shh. Funny thing is, this was like 4 years ago now, so if I had done it, I'd probably be already in the State Department, but whatever. Uh, Michael says, let's focus on. Yes, true. He said, well, can you tell us? Jesse says, absolute delusion, bro. I'm dangerous. Yeah. I, when did I say I'm dangerous? I didn't say I'm dangerous. What I said was from the time that I was a kid, talking about that back in the day stuff that you referenced, that I mentioned, I wasn't saying that I was hardcore or anything like that. I was saying the stuff that we had to go through as children at that time was much more tumultuous than what you soft ass motherfuckers do now. And I also said, based on what I've went through and the stuff that I do now, I can handle my own. So take it for what you will. My point is, you can't do anything about it because you're just someone talking shit anonymously behind a digital screen at night because you feel secure in your anonymity. So you can get the fuck off my channel too. He said, Agnes says, I'm in a process now. Yes, I know it's going to take at least a year, so it'll be a while. I guess it'll be worth it though. Jingo says, what's up, brother? What's up? So anyway, guys, now that I've talked to the trolls for like an unfathomable amount of time, that more than I meant to, 27 minutes, and I'm gonna go straight into my topic, and I'm just gonna ignore these clowns. So, like I said, the meta topic. Jingo says that trolls are ugly for a reason, exactly, and they just waste your time. That's the biggest problem with them. The funny thing is, they always think you're upset if you clap back at them, because most of them are so soft. They're not used to someone firing back at them. They're used to most content creators just ignoring them. So when someone actually gives them the attention that they want, they don't know how to react. Because if you give them the same energy, they don't know how to handle it. So they think, oh, he's aggressive. Like, nah, I'm not being aggressive. I'm just showing you how stupid you are by clowning you. That's all. I will like they're not used to someone roasting them, especially most Gen Z people aren't familiar with Generation X, which is funny because most of their parents are Generation X. But being that they're their parents, they're not going to treat them the same way a Generation X who's not connected to them would. They know nothing about our generation and how we are just naturally very snarky, cynical folks. Um, how we were raised in a time where we questioned authenticity in the people who were supposed to be our guardians and mentors, and how for fun we used to just insult people for fun. I mean, we would crank call people for fun. We would knock on people's door and run away for fun. Like we like they don't understand us because they think they confuse us either with millennials or they confuse us with our parents, the boomer generation, and we're different than both of them. Uh, Howard says I was part of the machine most of my life. Now I'm just a patriot that wants nothing to do with it. I hear you. This is why some of us travel in our retirement and go overseas. Michael says, "Do you have an antidote for everything?" No, not really. I wish. Well, sort of. Yeah. Generally one of my antidotes for most things is just to work out. Most of these little soft little Gen Z kids that come here trolling, I guarantee most of them don't work out. They're physically unfit. So Agus is like, share and subscribe, drop a super chat. This guy's trying to be so hard to troll. And again, I'm guaranteed he's just another little faggot little Gen Z. Like I said, most of these guys are physically unfit. I bet you if they spent as much time doing a push up, a sit up, going for a jog as they do going online to troll content creators, they'd probably be much healthier and find better things to do with their free time. So with that being said, 30 minutes in. So my meta topic is called correctly politically incorrect, which means I take topics which are considered politically incorrect and give a more nuanced factual take on them. Not to say that my take is necessarily correct, but that I strive to be more accurate in how it's talked about, sometimes in social media or on TV and mainstream media, or from within people's social circles when they're not around people who have any background in the things that they're discussing. So the first one I handled was gender several days ago. Then yesterday it was race and intelligence, and I argued how none of these things are social constructs. Gender is not a social construct. Race is not a social construct. Intelligence is not a social construct. Gender can't be a social construct if it has a biological reality to it. Why does it have a biological reality to it? Because you can't completely ex- extricate it from biological sex. So, and insofar as there's gender, as and insofar as there's medical treatments to us to affirm someone's gender, it means that it's not completely social. It's not just a social construct. Social constructs, in the way that we understand them, are concepts which are defined by social agreement. Um, Male and female has nothing to do with social agreement. It has to, in biological sex, the definition of biological sex is through the size of gametes. Large gametes equals female, small gametes equals male. Intersex is caused by developmental sexual disorders, which is a very statistically rare condition. So they don't factor into a definition of biological sex no more than if you do a random flip of a coin and it's only going to be heads and tails, that the statistical rare occurrence that a coin will land on its edge will ever factor into the flip of a coin because it's a statistically insignificant occurrence, as is being intersex. And gender is just a cultural expression of biological sex. Therefore, it is two things. Except the difference between gender and biological sex is just that whereas biological sex is fixed and binary, gender is more fluid and binomial, which means it's still two things, but you can be more than you can be a little bit of more than the other. So you'll be male, uh, but with gender, you may you may express more masculinity or less masculinity than other males. So that's different, but there's still two things. And again, gender is still related to biology because you can't extricate it from it fully. And the fact that you can medically alter it shows that there's something biological about it. Race, again, is something biological. Most biologists will call it a social construct, but if you get them alone in a bar, they'll tell they'll tell you it's real. Um, you you don't have you can't have illnesses that are endemic to particular racial and ethnic groups if race isn't biological. Nothing is going to attack someone because of a social concept. But we know that sickle cell anemia attacks Black African people. We know that Tay-Sachs disease attacks people of Jewish Semitic descent. So, and we know that there's currently people in military research and development working on race-based weaponry. You can't attack someone on a social concept. It has to be something biological if it's a biologically based weapon. On top of that, you have physical anthropologists that can identify a person by their skeletal remains, which means it's something biological. We can identify largely someone of, of their race by looking at this their facial, the way their skeletal skull features are. Generally speaking, uh, people of Black African descent have skulls with more of a protruding part in the back of the skull here and a protruding jaw right here, whereas East people of East Asian descent will have flatter faces, and people of Western European descent will have faces where the jaw doesn't protrude as much as Black Africans, but protrudes more than East Asians. So these all biological things. Not to mention, you can see racial differences in population genetics and through geographic variation. Intelligence, not a social construct. We can physically identify the structures of the brain responsible for intelligence in the prefrontal, in parts of the forebrain, and even more specifically in parts of the prefrontal cortex, um, the hippocampus, the was it the something striatum, and other parts of the brain. Um, Not on top of that, general intelligence, not to be confused with just intelligence with a capital I, but general intelligence, which is um, basically the a concept that identifies our our abilities for abstract reasoning and analytical skills. General intelligence is very definable because we can both quantify and measure. Anything that's quantifiable and measurable is real. Um, and there's an interplay between race and intelligence that people are uncomfortable with because of the history of scientific racism. But calling these things social constructs is just a throwaway because it just opens up more questions than it answers, because then you're going to get into what is a social construct. So that's what we're going to talk about today. What is a social construct? Man, this is Trump 47. Dude, why you keep saying Trump 47? He won already. I voted for him. A lot of us voted for him. At this point, let's just concentrate on making America great again in whatever ways we can make that happen, because he won. There's no need to keep thumping our chest about whom we voted on. Let's move on from that. I don't get why people are still saying Harris or people are still saying Trump. Like, let's just concentrate on moving forward and improving the country for everyone. Let me see what I missed here. I don't know what those emojis Kakal wrote. He says you look like that black guy off of Terminator 2. No, I don't. The dude had a long ass chin. Anyway, no. Just Dude says race based weaponry is wild. It makes sense, but man, that's wild. Yeah. So remember, they kind of touched on that a little bit in the last James Bond movie, No Time to Die. I don't think it's going to be like that. I don't know, because it's way above my pay grade. So I don't know if it's going to be like that, but I do know for a fact that there is R&D currently working on race-based weaponry. So that's wild, right? And it kind of makes sense because if if all your foes are in a particular country and those foes are all of a same ethnic group, then I could see why such weaponry would be utilized. But that's some nasty work, though. That's some nasty work, because obviously not everyone that it could target would be combatants or people who you want to extinguish, right? That's some nasty stuff. Howard says, if I ever go to prison, I'm going as a woman, right? Yeah, well, it depends on your state, because some states are starting to say, nah, we're not playing that anymore. I know, I'm pretty sure that once Trump comes into office, he's going to eradicate men being able to identify as women in the federal prisons. But as far as the state prisons, who knows? The state prisons and the local county and city jails, I can't say, but I'm pretty sure he's going to get rid of that in the federal prison system. That's some crazy stuff. Like I'm pretty sure you're referring to that guy that did that crazy stuff. What was that last week that went into the woman's jail, identifies as a woman, and did what he did to some female inmates. And dude didn't look a bit like a woman. Dude looked like, well, dude look a dude looked like a dude. So yeah, that's some crazy work, man. To that, I mean, first of all, why are we even? First of all, why are we even taking an inmate's gender identity seriously? Like you've lost that freedom in the first place, sir. And then, even if they do want to be respectful of that or whatever, no, like no, that's crazy work. Because I mean, at that point, if you're gonna do that, then any freaking male inmate can suddenly say, "Well, now that I currently identify as a female and be put in a female correctional facility and just go bananas." That's I like I they don't like the fact that they don't see why that's such a slippery slope to allow male inmates to do that is beyond me, Howard. Like I don't see how they don't see that's a slippery slope that any male inmate could do that, especially like someone, all right, like someone's getting run out of there, getting run out the prison because of whatever they got some, they got some crazy charges, or they just, or they just getting punked by some of the, or they may not have some crazy charges. Maybe they just getting punked by the by some of the affiliations where they're where they're where they're being held. So then you just decide, oh, I'm gonna just say I'm a woman and get sent to the female version of that correctional facility. That's crazy work. Or they on that BS and decide, well, I'm gonna just go to the female prisons and I'm gonna just spend my whole bid just fucking these chicks. Like that's crazy work. Like I said, I don't blame you for doing it, but I'm just saying it's just crazy how they're even taking that seriously. I'm pretty sure that's like in the California system and stuff like that. Cause nah, anyone saying I identify as a woman now, they need to be sent to San Quentin. They say, oh yeah, you're a woman, all right. Well, first you gotta do this little stint here in San Quentin. How says people want to live in a delusional world? Very strange. The people can live in a delusional world, Howard, because too many people in mainstream society are they're they're not glorifying it, but they're enabling them. They're enabling them to do it. If we don't enable them, they can't. Man, how you go from Trump 47 to Reagan 40? That's a wild jump, bro. So you saying those are the only two presidents of significance for you? It was Reagan back in what 81, and now Trump. That's wild. Like you ain't like anyone. You know like Bush Senior, Bush Junior. I can see why you might not like Clinton or Obama, but you didn't like either the Bush just Senior or Junior. When I look back at Bush Senior's years, they really weren't that bad, other than he made the he made the mistake of raising taxes when he said he wouldn't. That's what kind of crucified him, because he was like, "Read my lips, no new taxes." And then like 2 years in, he raises taxes, and so Clinton got him on that. Clinton was like, he said no new taxes, but look what happened. So that's what cost that cost him his election. That and just the economy was slipping at the time. Because I mean, he made a success of the we had the first Persian Gulf War back then, but we won easily, quickly. So that wasn't a factor so much. But you only like Reagan and Trump, man? Like no one else? Memphis Bleaks World says clapping cheeks all winter. Damn, son. Um, hey, I don't know where you clapping these cheeks at, but if you're in America, make sure you protecting yourself. That's all I'm saying. These chicks out here dirty. Guys, if you want to support me, go to buymeacoffee.com and buy me a coffee. That's what I'm currently drinking right now, iced coffee. Jesus, is that a real story though? Inmates getting gender surgery? No, it is a. Unfortunately, it is a real story. Jesus, the guy I was talking about didn't get gender surgery. He just went into a female prison after identifying as female, and that he proceeded to assault and unalive a female inmate or two. That's real. That was in the news just last week. So unfortunately, I didn't make that up. He didn't receive gender assignment surgery, but the fact that they are allowing inmates to get gender assignment surgery on the taxpayer's dime, that is also real. But that wasn't this particular person. Jesus says big difference between care and surgery. Care is an umbrella term. It can mean therapy or meds. Yes, but what I'm saying though, Jesus, read between the lines. What I'm saying here, if gender, social, so I'm gonna have to define social construct for you guys and how we use it in behavioral and social research. Social construct is a concept in which it is defined through social agreement. Okay, so it is not something that is inherently objective or real. Um, Meaning the concept doesn't. In other words, the concept doesn't refer to uh, any real, any sort of physical phenomena. Okay, whereas if we talk about like a hypothetical construct of any sort in science, whether it be physical, chemical, biological, psychological, yada yada yada, these are all hypothetical constructs as opposed to social constructs or cultural constructs. Hypothetical constructs are phenomena that is inferred within someone's scientific theory or explanation of some sort of observational data or whatever. So hypothetical constructs are are thought to be real, but they can only be inferred from the theory, which is doing the explaining of the observations, right? Whereas a social construct is just a concept which is defined through social agreement. And what I'm saying is because social constructs aren't inherently real or objective, it doesn't make sense to say that gender is a social construct, but then also talk about gender affirming care, gender affirming treatment, because you can't affirm something that is not inherently objective. You cannot use biomedical treatment to treat something that is not inherently objective. Do you get what I'm saying? We don't have architects for our castles in the sky because those castles in the sky don't actually exist unless you're Franz Kafka. If I missed you with that, I'm sorry. I'm a bit of a nerd. Anyway, and it also goes to an old psychology joke. The old psychology joke is what's the difference between a neurotic and a psychotic? And as it goes, the psychologist answers, well, the neurotic is scared to come outside while the psychotic builds castles in the sky. Anyway, getting back to what we're saying, gender affirming care does not make sense. if gender is just a social construct, because social constructs aren't inherently real. You can't affirm something that's not inherently real. This should just be common sense. What I'm saying is people who are trans activists, who are gender and queer study majors, they don't understand that they are muddling things just to just to bolster an ideology which is not tethered to evidence. If gender is just a social construct, you cannot affirm it through biomedical treatments of any sort because it's not inherently real. But obviously, gender is real, which is why you can alter it through biomedical treatment. So it's not a social construct. Race. Race is not a social construct because it can be altered through illness and medicine. We can identify it physically. We have physical anthropologists that can identify someone's race looking at just looking at their skeletal remains. We have illnesses that attack people just based on their ethnic background. This is why Black Africans are can often be afflicted with sickle cell anemia. This is why a lot of Jewish people might be afflicted with Tay-Sachs disease. This is why many ethnic groups are lactose intolerant. And we can identify racial differences in population genetics and through geographic variation. So it's not just a social construct. We can see people closer to the closer they are to the Arctic, the more lighter skinned they are, with smaller noses and straighter hair, and tend to be hairier. The people closer to the equator are darker skinned with broader noses and curly hair. And people and the people who live in places like the Central Asian steppes develop slanted eyes to 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 evolve as natural sun goggles to protect their eyes against the glare of the sun. So population genetics, geographic variation, and the fact that most races are a very large biological family that's partly inbred. This is all things that are biological, not so. If they're biological, they're not social constructs. Intelligence, not a social construct. We can we can identify the parts of the brain that positively correlate to general intelligence. Not only that, we know if these certain structures are altered, that they change the person's general intelligence. If they're damaged, that person's intelligence is also likewise damaged. Whereas if they have a natural increase in certain cellular activity in those parts of the brain, it may heighten their intelligence with more connections, usually which is called the white matter. The white matter are the axons. Well, they're sort of like the neural fibers that connect different cells to communicate with each other. The more those are, the more communication going on, usually the faster the processing is, because at the end of the day, intelligence is sort of information processing. So if you increase the amount of connections, or the speed of the or you increase either the amount of connections or the speed in which those connections can communicate with each other, you increase intelligence. Because if it's just a matter of information processing, faster processing equals higher intelligence. Biological, not social construct. Anyway, moving on. Just do so. Since we're talking about prisons, do you think prisons should be punitive or focus more on rehabilitation? Um, well, there's different types of rehabilitation, right? Um, let's see. That's actually a good question. That might have to be a discussion for another day because I'm kind of split between that because on one point there's some people, especially if you have a libertarian bent, if you're more of a like libertarian bent, this may be somewhere where both progressives and libertarians agree. For them, for many of them, they don't see prison and jail as something that should be punitive. They see it as something not necessarily rehabilitative, but somewhere, a place to keep someone, people who are dangerous away from everyone else, but not necessarily to make it punitive. Um, then, like I said, people who might be more liberal, progressive, might, and even some conservatives, like maybe more your paleo conservative. That is a real term, by the way. I didn't make that up. So maybe your more paleo conservative folks, your liberals, some of your progressives, they may see prison more as something that has a rehabilitative effect, which is why you have places where they had programs for the inmates, places where some places used to even allow them to get college degrees. Now I haven't seen any of them that gave you a bachelor's degree because I remember there was a lot of there was a lot of anger about that. People was like, "How do these people go to prison just to get a college degree? Meanwhile, I gotta work." I get that, but from the places I've seen, they were only getting 2 year degrees, which still may be more than what a lot of people have in the outside world. I get it. Um, but anyone who got a 4 year degree in school, they probably got it through like a program that works directly with prisoners. Like the University of Ohio has a program just for incarcerated um, inmates, a program strictly for them, but they have to qualify for it and they have to pay for it out of pocket. It's not paid for through the institution. Those inmates have to pay for that degree out of pocket through the University of Ohio, which does offer a college degree for prison inmates. Um, like I said, I'm of a split mind on that because on one hand, if the there I'm not I question how rehabilitative it can be just by the nature of being in a prison. Because if you want to be it, if you actually care about rehabilitating them, you won't put them in prison. You'll actually put them in rehabilitation programs, like and they have those, like the halfway homes, um, some of these psychiatric centers, psychiatric intervention type programs, stuff like that. But and for some and you know for some inmates they might be able to benefit from that, particularly like usually you'll see people sentenced more to rehabilitation if they're like someone who is a drug offender, like you know they were caught with using a lot of drugs, or they can show that their crime their crime was committed as a byproduct of their drug addiction. Then these people will often get sentenced to these rehabilitative programs. However, I question the efficacy of a lot of those programs because let's be honest, a lot of addicts don't shake their addiction because addiction is a biological thing. So I question how effective these programs can be and whether it's a waste of taxpayer money. I don't know. On the other hand, if it's there is there is some utility in being punitive. Um, people see the problem with crime and punishment. Not to sound like that classic novel, but people should probably read that, Crime and Punishment. But the problem with crime and punishment is that many crimes are committed when a person isn't being rational. Therefore, no matter how severe the punishment is for it, it's not going to stop the commission of that crime if a person isn't in a rational state of mind when they commit these sorts of crimes anyway. This is why they talk about in you know in the legal world things like mens rea, being in a someone who's in a sane state of mind. you know so it kind of does. So on one hand, it doesn't make sense for sentencing of people to be punitive, or at least it shouldn't be overly punitive, just because since the person committed it when they weren't being rational anyway, pu- the punitive aspects of it isn't going to prevent them and others from not doing it for in the future, because they're not doing it you know when they're rational. This is why for a long time you had these so-called crimes of passion, where say if a husband comes home and he finds his wife having an affair with someone, and he unalives them both in a fit of rage, then he could sometimes be acquitted because they would say that it was a crime of passion, and there was he, he would that sort of situation isn't a situation where a person could act in a rational capacity. I don't think that excuse works anymore today, although it may lessen the severity of the sentencing. But that sort of thing doesn't work. What I will say is, um, I don't really, I don't see. I kind of agree with the libertarians here. I don't see the prison as either a place for being punitive nor for rehabilitation. Instead, I see it as a place to keep dangerous folks away from other people. Um, but I can see how anyone could see. I can see how anyone might look at it either way, as using it as a form of punishment. Others looking at it as a form of rehabilitation. I would choose instead to look at it as far as keeping dangerous people away from the rest of society until they can show that they won't be a danger to society. But merely sentence them to punish them and have them serve as an example to others, that doesn't work. And trying to rehabilitate people who may not be capable of being rehabilitated doesn't make sense either. Um, Sorry for that long answer. I hope that makes sense. Um, just you said I was pretty young when Bush Senior was president. Die Mag 8 says Genghis Khan was a better president. Better president than whom? You gotta be specific. Are you talking about all of our presidents, or just are you talking about one in particular? How is there's too many scientists and doctors buying into and pushing their new norms? Yeah, so this is why I spoke about the eminent evolutionary psychologist Jerry Coyne quitting the Freedom from Religion Foundation, and then Richard Dawkins followed him, and so did Steven Pinker, because he and Richard Dawkins and Steven Pinker and a lot of scientists who are also good good skeptics, um, skeptics in the sense of like skeptical against pseudoscience and medical quackery and stuff like that, because a lot of this um, gender ideology is pseudoscience. Okay, and I'm just going to be completely blunt. A lot of this gender ideology is pseudoscience. The problem is, like Jerry Coyne and those others have articulated is that too many scientists and doctors are putting ideology above good science. We've seen this in Scientific American recently, and now we see it in the Freedom from Religion Foundation, which is an organization uh, geared towards atheists and humanists who want to live in a world where religion is not forced upon people. Not that they want to get away with, they want to do away with religion. They just want to do away with religion being used as an instrument of either of government or society to be forced onto others. So that's the Freedom from Religion Foundation. So all three of them quit in unison, and they lamented that in that group and in several other scientific organizations and in academia, we see people who should know better, trumping this gender ideology over science. So you're absolutely right. How it says creates a whole cultural shift. Well, yeah, but I think we're starting to see the pendulum shift back. Not just here in America, we're seeing this. We're seeing it in the EU as well. And in East Asia, they were never playing with that bullshit. in East Asia and the Middle East, they were never playing with that. They was like, no, we're not having that here. Africa, Africa neither. They weren't having it. They're like, no, we're not doing that. We don't do that over here. Kai Nguyen says, "Do you think about honey mustard? What do you think? What do you think about that? Has nothing to do about topic, Kai, but not my favorite unless it's for chicken tenders." KGC Dune says, "Didn't you have a thin beard last time?" Yeah, I shaved it. It wasn't a beard. It was just my 5 o'clock shadow growing in. I already told people I don't let it grow in beyond my 5 o'clock shadow because I like my I like my face clean shaven. And I know some people say beards are more manly. I get that. My problem is it takes more upkeep to keep a beard looking decent than just shaving it. To me, I think it's more manly just to shave it like we do in the military. Just be clean shaven and call it a day because uh, a beard takes a lot of upkeep to maintain it properly. That is, I mean, if you just want it to look all crazy looking and scraggly, sure, you don't have to do any upkeep. But to keep a beard looking decent, take some upkeep. You need to keep that thing oiled. You need to keep it combed. You need to keep it trimmed. I don't have time to do all that. I don't want to do that every day. Like back in the day, I used to have like a mustache and a goatee, but like when I was in college. But and then I would have to shave it off when I went to my reserve drills. Like I would keep the mustache, and I would just cut off the goatee and the soul patch. Then I would make sure the mustache doesn't go. In army regulations, your mustache can't go beyond your lip. Um, but after a while, I just got tired of the upkeep of maintaining facial hair. It's like I said, it's just easier just to shave it. And to me, that actually is more manly than sitting there worrying about making sure your beard looks, you know, thorough. Because if you're gonna have a beard, you need to keep it thorough. Same thing like with hair. Like this is why back in the day, just like I used to keep facial hair, I used to have waves in my hair because my hair is naturally curly. So I would just brush it down, put a wave cap on, and but I got tired of wearing the wave cap every night. So like I said, it was just easier just to cut it down to a cut it all the way down close to a one. If you guys know your razor blade lengths, cut it down to a one, or just wear a little blowout like I currently have. But I'm not really into the a lot of hair maintenance. Like a lot of hair maintenance for a guy just doesn't seem very manly. So, but that's just me. I have no strong feelings on how other people coif their hair. Dimag says, "Who's Franz Kafka?" Dude, you know who Franz Kafka is? No, I'm just joking. No, he's like a literary giant in classical literature. Um, I would definitely say Google his name so you can see some of his really good books. The one where I reference Castle in the Sky is actually funny because he never finished that book. So, but they published it even without him finishing the ending just because it was so good. I would show you some of his books, but they're currently locked away in my boxes. I don't have them on my bookshelf. They're in they're packed away in my boxes with my other college books. So I can't pull one of them out right now. Pause. But if I if I if I could, I would show you like I think I have two of his books in my collection, which I read from my philosophy of literature class. No, yeah, yeah, I read it for my philosophy of literature class. Uh, Diamag says, but race is not real in the way we use it. No, that's not true. Our conceptualization of race does not map on to how race is actually the. So okay, let me put it this way. So race is a real phenomena. However, our conceptualization of race doesn't map onto it correctly because usually our conceptions of race just have to do with skin color and facial features. But race, um, if you look at, but race, if you're looking at it in terms of like um, population genetics, isn't about uh, necessarily skin color or facial features. However, it's definitely real because, like I said, we see that there is a difference amongst racial and ethnic groups by population genetics and through geographic variation. Also, we know that physical anthropologists can identify a person's race through their skeletal remains. Also, we know that there are medical illnesses endemic to particular racial and ethnic groups. Okay, and we know that there are certain physical traits amongst different racial groups. Like I said, amongst people of uh, East Asian or the old classification Mongoloid is that they have epicanthic folds um, on their uh, on their eyelids, and that was because their ancestors came from the Central Asian steppes, where they developed these epicanthic folds around their eyes to protect their eyes from the sun. They work as natural sun goggles. People close to the equator, like Black Africans, people of Southern Indian descent, people in parts of Southeast Asia and Pacific Islands, have browner skin because the melanin works as a natural sunblock, and their hair tend to be curlier to protect their scalp from frying in the sun. People closer to the Arctic regions have paler skin, often because it's cold in those regions, so they often kept their skin covered from the sun. Also, their noses develop to become more narrower to cool the air before they breathe it in, and they tend to be hairier people. So these are biological things. Race is real. The reason, again, that a lot of biologists might call it a social construct is because a lot of them don't want to get into a political discussion with about race because they know that if people acknowledge the fact that race is real, they'll be considered. They think people align anyone who who identify race realism with scientific racism, and they're not necessarily the same thing. To acknowledge that race is real does not is not to also acknowledge that um, one race is better than the other, which is scientific racism. When you conflate someone's a race's inherent worth with with the average IQ of that racial group, since there are differences amongst them. And again, intelligence is real as well. Howard says, "Have you ever looked at the study they did on Einstein's brain? Fascinating." I've heard about it. So this is why I was talking about the connection. So when we talk about gray matter, we're normally talking about the neurons, the brain. There's two types of main brain cells. There's the neurons and there's the glial cells. The glial cells do a lot of the supporting work in the brain. The neurons are, are usually the ones that handle a lot of um, the communication back and forth amongst the brain. But the glial cells often support that. So the neurons are normally called the gray matter. The glial cells are the white matter. And one way in which the white matter supports the gray matter is that the neuronal axons, which are like these long extending wires or fibers coming off the neurons, connect with each other to communicate across a synapse. And it's one of the things the glial cells will do is that they actually wrap around those neurons to um, to enable faster communication between these cells. Sort of like if anyone knows anything about like cable and telephone wiring, which I did in the army, but which is funny. So when I started studying this stuff, it instantly clicked. I was like, oh, I get it. Um, just like if you're looking at um, a signal repeater with like in cable and telephones to foster a stronger or faster signal going to your TV, to your phone, to your computer, whatever. That's what these glial cells might do. They also help clean up stuff that goes on in the brain to keep it to keep it clean, to keep the brain healthy. But we don't have to go into all that because there's different types of glial cells. Um, what they noticed about Einstein is that he had a prodigious amount of white matter as compared to the gray matter, which is funny because prior to that, most people thought that smarter people probably had larger amount of gray matter in their brains as opposed to white matter. But it's looking at his brain, which, by the way, it's not always it's tricky looking at a brain once someone has already died because the brain may have already been significantly altered in its death than how it looked when the person was still alive. But anyway, assuming that it didn't that it wasn't the physical alteration of the brain once he died wasn't too much different than when he was alive. It seemed like he had more white matter than gray matter in his brain, and some people believed it was because of that amount of white matter that he could probably process things more quickly. Okay, like I said, like I said earlier, um, we now look at intelligence not just as a matter of your score on an intelligence test. We look at it as information processing in the brain, and as such, one could say that someone who's more intelligent is just someone who has faster information, who can process information faster. If you have more white matter in your brain as opposed to the gray matter, that's going to probably lead to faster communication between bodies of neurons called ganglia in different parts of the brain, particularly in parts of the neocortex like the prefrontal cortex, um, parts of the temporal cortex, um, the occipital cortex back here. There's five cortices, major brain regions. So that was the interesting thing that came about with looking at Einstein's brain post mortem, right? Is that he seemed to have a substantial amount of white matter compared to gray matter. I don't know if that has been the case for a lot of other geniuses in history that they were able to look at their brains and see if the physical features were different than people of average intelligence. And probably just because it's so McCade to ask, the survivors of these people to allow them to do that, that this probably hasn't been a widespread research on that, but it would be interesting nonetheless. Um, some guy says O.J. Simpson. Well, first of all, rest in peace to O.J. Simpson. I mean, the man loved him some snow bunnies. But I'm not OJ. I'm not unaliving anyone. Uh, we're not even the same shade. So I don't know how you get that. Like we don't look anything alike. Well, I don't know, but yeah. Jason says it's East Asia and India. No, India is South Asia. East Asia, East Asia is like Korea, China, Japan, Mongolia. Um, for the most part. Then you have Southeast Asia, which you can consider an extension of East Asia, which is Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, Myanmar, Vietnam, Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia, Timor Leste, um, Bur- what's that country called? Bur, whatever it's called. But yeah, South India is in South Asia, which is India, Pakistan, um, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, um, Nepal, all those. I think Nepal is sort of like between Southeast Asia and South Asia, but usually it's considered part of South Asia. And then also sometimes Afghanistan is considered part of South Asia. Sometimes it's considered part of Middle East, whatever. So those are the differences. Agnes is like, share, and subscribe. Drop a super chat or buy Just A Contrarian coffee. Thanks. Howard Glenn says, "God, go for now. See you next time." All right, Howard. Have a good evening, bro. Take care. Jason says, "I know you should be having the metamorphoses." Yes, I, Metamorphosis is definitely written by Franz Kafka. That was one of the first things I read about him. And then there was the discussion: is this person he's describing, is he turned into a beetle? Is he turned into a cockroach? Is he just is this all in his head? Uh, it, this is why you have the term called Kafka-esque, which means something that is surreal. Anytime you have so anytime you hear someone say something is Kafka-esque, that's a way of talking about how surreal something feels, right? Because it comes from his classic books like the Metamorphosis. The Metamorphosis wasn't a book; I think it's more of a short story. But the Metamorphosis is like almost a necessary reading if you want to know anything about Franz Kafka. You'll realize that his stories are very surreal. Like you'll start reading something, um, and you'll start as you get into the story, you realize things aren't what they seem, and then you start questioning whether what you were reading was at all what was being described in the story in the first place. That's classic Franz Kafka, and that's why we have the term now for people who are literary minded, to say things are Kafka-esque. Thanks, Jason. Jesus Image says, greetings from Uganda. What's up, bro? Agnes says, thanks for coming in, Howard. Please come again. Why you sound like Apu? Thank you. Come again. He's not. Uh, by the way, I love Apu, so don't think I'm dissing Apu. I love that. I love the character Apu. They shouldn't have taken him off. And then the funny thing is, a lot of Indians weren't even offended by his representation. So, but whatever. That's a different subject. Moonlit, what's up, bro? He says so. He said, I call whoever discovered that is a severely disturbed person with big issues. Hmm. Just Deuce is gonna jump off. I got an early date tomorrow. All right, bro. Take care. Agnes says hi, Moonlit Fern. Welcome. How are you? He says hi, Agatha. Good. Good. How are you? Moon says just a dude. Have a good day tomorrow. Agnes says I'm great. Was a good day. Just really cold and snowing in NYC. Psh. Well, yeah, we all got hit with that nor'easter from. I'm guessing from Boston to DC. We all got hit with that nor'easter. Jesus says greetings from Uganda again. Moon says been decent here, not too hot with a cool breeze. It's like 29 degrees Celsius at the moment. For us people who are phobic to Celsius and the metric system in general, 29 degrees there's he's saying is about roughly I would say that's like high 70s, low 80s. I don't have my I used to know my exact equation for converting between Celsius and Fahrenheit, but I don't feel like I really don't feel like doing that math in my head. So I'm just gonna say it's about 80. Moon says Uganda. Are you sure? Yeah, he says he's from Uganda, man. He said he's been on here a few times. Agnes says I wish I could enjoy those cool breezes. Travis Ingram says you look gay. Well, I guess so because you're projecting your own homosexuality onto other people, Travis. Peter Puffers like you have a have instantly a radar to look for gayness because that's all y'all see is dicks. Because that's what you look for, dicks in your mouth. You go from right side, left side, right side, left side, left side, right side, left side. Swirl it out, swirl it around, swirl it around, then swallow, then spit, then swallow, then spit, and put another one in, and left and right, and left and right, and left and right, and circle it, swirl it around. That's what you do, Travis, all day, every day, 9 to 5. That's right. You come disturbing me on my live stream. I'm gonna put out what you do 9 to 5. Cause we don't come to your house knocking dicks out of your mouth when you trying to make a living, do we? We let you swirl them dicks around all 12 inches, just sticking out your cheeks. Travis Ingram. And you're an incel. Like only an incel comes to a live stream to troll people because you have no life. Anyone else who has a better life would do something better with their time. Go watch Squid Game. Agnes says I'm getting ready to go to the UK next week. My team and I waiting on approval of the ETA. Moonlit. Omar says it's freezing over here tonight. We have to keep our water dripping. Yeah, I just saw that. So when I was running the other day, when I was actually going somewhere I hadn't ran before, and I ran by this apartment complex, and it was saying in front of the complex for people to leave their faucets dripping when it's freezing. So and I was like, oh, I've never heard of that. So I guess that is a thing to keep people's uh, pipes from freezing. Pause. But yeah, finish this. I keep forgetting my coffee's here, guys. So we kind of took a huge tangent. So let's get back on social constructs. So again, on this meta topic, correctly politically incorrect. Shout out to Moonlit again. Thanks, bro. Um, most of the things being called social constructs today are not social constructs because as social constructs are defined, they're not inherently objective or real phenomena. A social construct is a concept which is defined through general social agreement and as such aren't inherently real. But if something has any sort of biological basis, it's not just merely a social construct. And I keep harping on that. I've said it in different ways where I've tried to save social construct and conflate it with hypothetical construct, but I think I actually did you guys a disservice by saying that. So I distinguished that early, and I want to restate that today. I mean, right now, as I did like an hour or so ago. there's a difference between a theoretical or hypothetical construct and one that's called a social or cultural construct. Okay, so a hypothetical or theoretical construct are actual phenomena, physical phenomena, which are inferred from the theory doing the explaining of so, some sort of observations, right? So, for instance, a hypothetical construct which we think is real is working memory. Working memory is is physical phenomena of the brain that is inferred in the theory of working memory theory about how the mind works in storing storing memory um, in short term memory, and then the using the attentional resources of the brain to focus on it when we're doing certain things, and then later that being stored into long term memory. The theory of working memory explains that, and the phenomena inferred from that working memory we think is somehow physically realized in the brain, right? So that's a hypothetical construct. A social construct would be something like mm, let's try to think of a non-controversial example. hmm. I wanted to say religion, but that might touch on a few nerves. what what is a good social construct to talk about? Superheroes, okay? Super superheroes aren't real, but they are, something agreed upon by general social agreement of what a superhero is, right? They aren't real, but we can talk about them. We can certainly explain them. We can define them. We can point to some. We can point to something. We can give a to point to something like we can give like some sort of ostentative definition of what a superhero is through some example like Superman or Batman or Wolverine or Spider-Man, whatever. But they're not inherently real, right? I think that's a good uncontroversial example is uh, superheroes. That would be a social construct. But calling gender a social construct doesn't make sense because you can't, no matter how much people in gender and queer studies try, nor people like no matter how much people who who support genderology try, you cannot extricate gender from biology because there is it has it overlaps with biological sex, and there's just no getting around that. Because if it was purely a social construct, you couldn't do gender affirming care. Gender affirming care is a biomedical treatment of some sort. You can't do a biomedical treatment on something that's not inherently real. For instance, you can't do you can't do superhero reassignment because there's superheroes don't exist. You you can't take someone who wants to identify as Superman and then do some sort of superhero assignment treatment to make that person more like Superman. I'm sorry. If so, I'll if we could do that, our military would be doing it right now. um, a race is another one that's called social construct. Again, social constructs aren't inherently real or objective, but race is inherently real objective because there are medical illnesses that attack certain racial or ethnic groups. There are people in, let's just say, different militaries and stuff like that that are working on research and development into race-based weaponry. There are ways geneticists, through the study of population genetics and molecular biology, can identify different groups, different racial and ethnic groups. Not to mention, we can recognize different racial and ethnic groups through geographic geographic variation. We have physical anthropologists that can identify a person's racial group through their skeletal remains. So it's not merely a social construct. Intelligence. We can look at the parts of the brain that positively correlate with intelligence. Not only that, we can see an actual physical representation of a person's intelligence um, mapping onto different parts of the neocortex, and we can quantify and measure general intelligence. Not only that, but our measurements of general intelligence gives us predictive validity of that person's academic and financial success in the future. So not just a social construct. So Omar says, okay, what is a social construct? What does it mean? So I hope that answered you. KL says, will you pay 1.5 million to sleep with a woman? What? No one's gay over here, bro. I don't. So go take that Gen Z faggotness to somewhere else. Omar says, but I do believe there are spiritual things involved in everybody's life. Yeah. So we're social con. Don't. So I don't want you to confuse things. When we're talking about social constructs, we're not talking about whether abstract phenomena exist or not, or whether there's a different reality from physical reality. Like, if you're of a religious bent, you might think that there's a physical reality and then there's a spiritual reality. That's not what social constructs is talking on. Social constructs again, is a concept in behavioral and social science that defines concepts through their mutual social agreement. That's what a social construct is. It has nothing to do with talking about whether it's not talking about the distinction between abstract and physical phenomena, because there are some abstract phenomena in which I believe exist, but I believe that abstract phenomena is and somehow, but I do believe that abstract phenomena is somehow physical, because I'm a physicalist like myself generally believe that everything that exists is physical in some capacity. Um, then there are some physicalists that even go even more strongly and say that only things that can be explained in terms of physical science is real. I don't go that far. This is why sometimes we distinguish between materialism and physicalism. Materialism is more of a excuse me. Materialism is sort of a ontological physicalism, which just says that everything that actually exists is physical, whereas epistemic physicalism also is a stronger thesis, which says that everything that exists is explainable in terms of some sort of physical science. You don't have to agree with the strong thesis to agree with the weaker materialist thesis. So in any case, I believe in some abstract phenomena like propositions, numbers, sets, and relations. These are abstract things, but I do believe they exist, and I think they are somehow physically realized, most likely as some sort of mental representations. Anyway, we don't have to get into we don't have to get into that sort of uh, philosophy of psychology and stuff like that, and philosophy of math, just to say, hey, social constructs are different from hypothetical constructs, because hypothetical constructs are phenomena that are inferred to actually exist, where social constructs aren't inherently real, but just concepts that we define through social agreement. It doesn't touch on the differences between spiritual and or anything else. Okay. Omar says, I don't think you can explain everything with science. Never said. Well, I've never said that you can explain everything with science. Again, you're making a straw man of things. Like you're putting words in my mouth that I never said. One, again, I've never, as far as this conversation was concerned, I never talked about spirituality in regards to social constructs. We're talking about social constructs refers to things that we talk about in society that everyone agrees upon. It, that's how they're defined through their social agreement. It has nothing to do with spirituality or religion. And I never said that science explains everything. Again, you're putting words in my mouth that I never stated. You, I don't get where you're going with that. Like, if you want to make a point, just go ahead and make your point. But don't. It's not reason. It's not fair to keep putting words in my mouth that I didn't say. This has nothing to do with um, this has nothing to do with extreme scientism, and this has nothing to do with spirituality versus the external world. This You're missing the point. You're trying to turn this into some sort of religious debate, and it's not. This is not what this is about. Social constructs is something that comes out of behavioral and social sciences, but it is misused by people who want to either bolster gender ideology or um, or they want to do this whole dance around racial equality. People who have a bent for gender ideology want to call it a social construct, but then still treat gender as real. People who are look people who are into racial equality and egalitarianism want to deny that things like race and intelligence are real. Denying things that are real just because of inconvenient facts about these phenomena doesn't help solve social issues by just simply ducking our heads in the sand. Uh, the reality, um, let me put it this way: no, like, how want to put this without it being rude? No one said that the way things are, that reality owes us a kindness. Okay, discovering the way the world is does not mean that it has to conform to what we find as nice and polite and kind. Um, Radio Jewy says, "What's this channel about?" Well, the channel is called Just a Contrarian. I am Just a Contrarian. This channel is about me nerding out about different topics. Uh, I vlog on current current issues, on nerdy things like comic books and superhero movies. I talk about traveling, uh, and I talk about things like martial arts and stuff like that. That's generally what this channel is about, me nerding out on the things that I have a passion for. Um, Matthew Scott says Romans chapter 6, verses 23, King James Version, for the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life through Jesus Christ our Lord. So there you go, guys. So almost as we are in the matrix with the cell phones. No, we're not. I think a lot of people just need to touch grass. Uh, A lot of people, especially young, well, I'm not going to put this on young people. Both younger people and older people, including myself, some of us spend way too much time tethered to our devices and online. Sometimes we need to just get out, turn off these phones, and experience life. And we'll see. We're not in the matrix. We're clearly not. Just some of us are too addicted to our devices, and these devices are engineered to be addictive. So sometimes just put it in your pocket and go for a jog. Sign up for an MMA class. Go to the gym. Go talk to a girl in real life. And when you do, pull out a pen and a piece of paper. Don't give her your phone. So actually hand her your pen and something to write on so that she can give you her number. And tell her, I don't want your Instagram. No, I want your number. We not doing Instagram over here. I want your actual phone number. Let her know I am going to call. All right. We need to do the things that we did before we all became obsessed with being online, being in scrolling through social media, those sorts of things. And we'll realize that things aren't as different as we think they. Sorry, I just reconnected, so I hope everyone caught the last thing of what I said. Matthew Scott says, Jesus, your Lord. No, sir, I'm not religious. I don't knock anyone for their religion, but I'm not Christian. I'm not religious at all. I do have, I respect people's religious beliefs. In fact, um, on my dog tags, I do carry the uh, Saint Michael, which is the patron saint of the U.S. Armed Forces. When we when we deployed, one of the one of our sergeants was handing out these little Saint Michael's charms to all of us, and I didn't put it on my on my dog tag at the time. So I was like, I'm not religious. I don't want this, but I thanked her anyway. But now I do wear it because I realized it was both a nice gesture. For one, I understand it was a sincere gesture, and two, I like the fact that the the U.S. Armed Forces has its own patron saint. Like that's kind of cool. So does the UK as well. I think theirs is Saint Andrews, but the U.S. is Saint Michael. So guys, you can buy me a coffee, buymeacoffee.com. The link is in the description if you want to support your boy. It helps a lot. Thank you. You can also click on that super chat. If you ask me something in the super chat, regardless of what the topic is, I will answer it. But if I'm on a specific topic like I am today, I won't be answering questions outside of that topic unless it's on a ask me anything day. Every week I have a day where I say ask me anything, and there's no particular topic, so people can just ask me random questions as long as they're appropriate questions and family friendly questions. Outside of my ask me anything days, every other day will be a specific topic. So people generally, since I'm answering all your questions for free, I only ask people to stay on topic, and then if they want to ask me something off topic, that they ask it in the form of a super chat or a super sticker, or you can cash at me, whichever way works for you. Omar says, "Hey, yeah, but I remember that in the '80s, it was such a big deal to be able to see somebody on the computer screen." Yeah, I mean, it wasn't until the '80s that we had internet anyway. See, some people forget because the World Wide Web didn't start until 1994. A lot of people forget that we still had internet back in the '80s. It's just that most of us didn't use it back then because the only thing you could use internet for prior to 1994 was either email or the the uh, the Usenet groups and stuff. The Usenet groups and the discussion, the internet, the online discussion boards. And they're still, by the way, those Usenet groups are still up today. You can still go online and find those some of those same Usenet groups. Um, but yeah, uh, the internet wasn't really a form of communication for most of us prior to 1994, except through email. And let's be real, most of us did not have internet connections for email back in the 80s unless we were either really nerdy or really rich or both. I was really nerdy, but I wasn't rich, so I didn't have internet. I had a computer back then, but I just back then I used to just practice you know typing in programs or playing computer games like Oregon Trail, Where in the World is Carmen San Diego, uh, my um, grammar games, math games, stuff like that. That's about all I could do with it. Uh, Nyrock says, "Good afternoon, Negro. Good afternoon, you sheep fucking cave dweller. You incel. go go get some pussy. How about that? Bet you I can. I'm more attractive to your own women than you are to them. Nyrox. Anyway, um, Matthew says, if the Bible is true, and I believe it is, then Jesus is the only way to heaven. I care about your soul and do not want you to go to hell when you die. I used to be a non-believer too. Well, that's cool, but again, that's not my topic, bro. I did answer your questions though, so they were completely off my topic, but I did answer them. But if you want me to answer any other religious questions, I I I I um I asked politely, did you put it in a super chat? Because I want to stay on my topic on social constructs. Because like I was just answering Omar, he had a confusion in what I was talking about. And I was trying to let him know the social construct has nothing to do with talking about science versus religion or different realities or anything like that. It was social construct. I was basically trying to say how the concept of social construct is misused in a lot of um, social issues today. And that's why in my last two previous live streams, I actually went on to talk about specific phenomena, which is often just called social constructs by people who are trying to perpetuate a certain ideology. So, but I mean, if Matthew wants to keep putting in quotes here, that's fine. I'm not going to stop you from doing that. But just realize I'm not going to answer any questions unless they're put in a super chat format, unless they are specifically about this topic, which is social constructs. Omar says, "Yeah, I remember the Oregon Trail. Yeah, that was fun." um, but yeah, so did that explain to you what I meant, Omar? So again, just to go over this again, I realized I have to be sort of didactic and keep kind of over communicating what I'm trying to say. So again, social constructs are concepts that are defined through mutual social agreement, but they are not inherently real or objective. And since they are defined by social agreement, they can change. They can change over time through through social consensus on the matter. Okay. Whereas hypothetical constructs, these are both matters of behavioral and social sciences. Hypothetical constructs, as opposed to social constructs, are actual phenomena that exist, but can only be inferred through theoretical explanation. Okay. What does phenomena mean? Phenomena is just a I'm using the term phenomena because it's a vague enough to talk about any phenomena just means anything basically that's real. Like when you phenomena is just like Like if I say psychological phenomena or physical phenomena or biological phenomena, it's just a vague term referring to things that exist somehow, some things that actually exist. But sometimes it's just easy to give it that vague term phenomena as a sort of a catch-all term for any and all things that fall within that certain domain. So if I'm talking about mental phenomena, I can be referring to stuff like memory and learning, right? Or uh, stuff like that. Attention and mental states and beliefs. That's all mental phenomena. Okay. Physical phenomena, when I'm talking about things like atoms and molecules and things like that. Social phenomena are things in society like families and religion, stuff like that. So I hope that explains what I'm talking about. um, does anyone else have any questions about that, or questions about, or does how about this? Here's a good question for you guys. Do any of you want to have a question on a certain a certain object or phenomena or thing that you heard of that you wonder whether it's a social construct or not? That that's what I'm wondering. I know it's only about 5 or 6 of you right now, but do any of you have any questions on something and want to know whether it's a social construct or if it's something that's like a real thing, a real construct? Because sometimes we don't even say hypothetical construct because it's such a mouthful. Pause. But in science, we'll just say construct. We don't say we won't you know say hypothetical construct, which is sort of redundant. Saying hypothetical construct is redundant in the same sense that we sometimes call something a uh, a deductive validity. Like that's just redundant. Validity can only be deductive anyway, but sometimes to differentiate that from a inductive inference, we'll say deductive validity. But it's sort of redundant to say hypothetical construct, just like it's redundant to say deductive validity. Omar says I'm confused, but I will stop using this type of language. Tell me what you're confused on, so I can try to explain. Cosmo Shield says culture. Yes, well, culture by definition is a social construct. Cosmo. Spirituality. It depends on what you mean by spirituality. Are you talking about the concept of spirituality? Yes, the concept of spirituality is a social construct. Or are you talking about spiritual phenomena itself? That's different. Spiritual phenomena itself might be inferred to exist by people who believe in it. The question then it becomes basically a then it just basically becomes an empirical question of whether these things actually exist or not. Crispy says 2.5 quadrillion bytes over the course of life. It is equivalent to a million gigabytes. Things can go wrong. I think he's talking about mental processes. Omar says, I want to know why the milkman disappeared. I only see it in old movies. Because we have modern refrigeration nowadays. That's why. Um, we have modern refrigeration. We have supermarkets where we can store milk for longer periods of time, where people in those times receive fresh milk delivered to them. So that's why. Yes, if you watch old 50s in 60 sitcoms like Leave It to Beaver, Fathers Knows Best, um, Dobie Gillis, stuff like that. Yeah, they you see the milkman delivering the milk, and that's become and the milkman has become synonymous with a lot of porn, by the way. But whatever, that's a whole different subject. But yeah, it's simply because we have modern refrigeration now, so we don't need someone to deliver us milk every day. It's for the same reason we don't see as much snail mail come to us anymore. A lot of us we receive our mail digitally now, so we don't have as much mail come to us physically now. Most of the time, the physical mail we receive is something from like we order from Amazon and eBay, right? So or Timu. Damn. I guarantee you guys, since I mentioned Timu not just once but twice, you're gonna see it pop up on your you're gonna see it pop up in your social media. They're scary. It's like Candyman. If you say Timu enough times, they will pop up in your in advertisements in your social media platforms. Crispy says in your brain. I know you was talking about. I know you were talking about mental processes. Cosmo says the recognition of a higher power. That's yeah. That's not a social construct. That would be the recognition of a higher power. Excuse me. The recognition of a higher power would be a psychological phenomena. So depending on one's beliefs about that, they can be tested, right? And so, as such most psychological phenomena, as opposed to social phenomena, right, are again constructs that are inferred to exist through one's theoretical explanation of some sort of observations. That wouldn't be a social construct. Mariah C. Pilkey. She says, "Do you Mariah Carey?" Am I missing a word there? Is it do I like Mariah Carey? Do I see? I don't get. Do you Mariah Carey? I know there's some sort of joke there. It's pretty funny somewhere. I'm guessing, but I'm not catching it. Pause. Crispy says milk straight from a cow, not altered, is so different. Yeah, it's also not very healthy either. We the reason we don't get milk straight from a cow is because people got sick and died from it. This is why we receive pasteurized milk from Louis Pasteur, who kind of helped bring about the germ theory of disease, because we realized the reason why milk was unhealthy straight from the teat is because it carried germs that can kill us. This is why we developed pasteurization, or what he did, which heated the milk, which killed the germs inherent in in cow milk or dairy milk before we ingested it. There are some places you can there are some, health um places where you can buy unpasteurized milk. I would not drink it. I'm not drinking unpasteurized milk. We pasteurize milk for over 100 years for a reason, because it keeps us from getting sick and dying. So I can't recommend unpasteurized milk. I've seen my mother have some before. I think no, she had unpasteurized honey or something like that. I was like, I'm not messing with that. I was like, you knowing that honey is the vomit from bees after they've digested um what you call it, the stuff from the plants, and then they regurgitate it. That's honey. You should probably get that pasteurized. I'm pretty sure you should get the pasteurized version of honey. But my mother had it. She was like, well, I was like, yeah, I'm not trying that. I'm not eating unpasteurized honey for the same reason I'm not drinking unpasteurized milk. It contains germs that can get you very sick. Uh, Cosmo says because it's innate. Well, if you're saying religiosity is innate, yes, but the so-called recognition of a higher power is not innate. Um, religiosity is innate, but the recognition of a so-called higher power is not necessarily innate unless you are conflating religiosity with the recognition of a higher power, which is very vague because higher power is just a euphemism for God. I mean, let's be completely honest and put our cards on the table. When people talk of a higher power, they're just using it as a euphemism for God. And the recognition of such is a religious belief. It is not innate. Religiosity is innate, which means we all do have a sort of innate belief, innate spiritual beliefs, but that can be recognized in many different formats. It can be recognized as a belief in God. It can be belief. It can be recognized as a belief in just the spirit world. It doesn't have to necessarily be a God. It can just be the spirit world or spiritual values, whatever. But I find people who say higher power to be disingenuous because you're basically just using a euphemism for God. I don't like euphemisms. I like people to say things directly. Um, Omar says I absolutely hate pop-up ads. It does not encourage me to buy any of their products. Facts. Omar says Britney Spears and Mariah Carey. The songs both both. The early Mariah Carey was the bomb when she first came out. I loved Mariah when I was like I was 13. She first came out. I had a huge crush on her. She had the little curly hair. Um, I used to listen to her first album. I liked her, but once she turned into a diva, it I just lost interest. But I think her best album outside of well, her best album was the first album, and then the the what was called the adventures or the no the Emancipation of Mimi. That was the best one because that was when people thought her career was dead, and then they was like, oh, okay, well her career is dead, so she's like, all right, bet, and she went to she went to So Deaf and released the Emancipation of Mimi. She killed it. That's still one of my that's I still love that record. It came out in what, like 2005. She killed it on that joint. So I'm not gonna say all her songs suck. Britney, yes, Britney songs suck. But most of us, let's be honest, unless we were girls or of the alternative alphabet crowd, guys didn't listen to Britney because of her songs. They listened to her because she was hot. So anyway, I'm getting off subject. Cosmo says pasteurizing destroys essential enzymes. I don't care. I'd rather destroy essential enzymes and deadly germs. It it's look, as the late great Kevin Samuels has always said, there are always trade-offs, and men recognize that. Like there are always trade-offs. There's no free lunch here, guys. Like yeah, pasteurization may kill off some essential enzymes, but it also keeps you from dying from that very food product. Which would you rather have? Essential enzymes in a food that kills you, will leave, or put you in a severe, or gives you a severe illness, or would you like something that kicks out a few enzymes, but at least gives you a nutritious food product as a result? And then if there's like micronutrients that you're missing, you can just make that up through other foods or through vitamin supplements at the worst. I'll take the pasteurized food that I can eat safely without it putting me on the toilet for 30 days. It's okay. Uh, Crispy says nationwide there were 1,414 illnesses, 80 hospitalizations, and zero deaths attributed to raw milk between 1998 and 2010. Um, I don't know. I can't speak for that. Let's assume what you're saying is true. Um, what I will say to that is, what am I getting from the raw milk that I'm not getting from pasteurized milk? that's again assuming those numbers are real. I would prefer the pasteurized milk that came out as a result of modern medicine. Guys, Louis Pasteur is sort of the father of modern of he, well he he stands as one of the pillars of modern medicine because his pasteurization brought forth our our germ theory of disease, which has kept hundreds of millions of people alive, if not if not billions of people alive today because of the medical germ theory of disease through people like Louis Pasteur. Pasteurized milk is safer to consume than raw milk. Raw milk doesn't even taste that good. It's disgusting. It still has the especially it still has that little curdle up top and stuff. It, yuck. No, I'm sorry. You can have your raw milk. I don't want that shit. That's disgusting. Omar says you have to remember the mad cow disease. Well, that wasn't from the milk though. That was from eating the beef. The 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 animals themselves were tainted, and it was. I don't think I'm not sure if you got it from the milk because these weren't dairy. From what I remember, these weren't dairy cows. These were all um, beef cows, um, which were slaughtered for their meat, not for their dairy. Um, and it was causing people severe health problems. But in any case, food preparation, whether pasteurization, thoroughly cooking it, refrigeration, these have enabled us to have longer lifespans than we had 100 years ago when we then a few 100 plus years ago when we drank raw milk before we thoroughly cooked our food, before we had modern refrigeration to prevent our food from spoiling before we ate it, before we had modern refrigeration to prevent our food from spoiling. The only thing we could do was basically heavily cure our meat and vegetables through like salt and stuff like that. Not very not very tasty nor healthy, but at least it kept the food from spoiling. We've came a far away from there. Anyway, that's kind of tangential to my original discussion, which is social constructs. Again, to answer Omar, spirituality, or I should say, or if you want to call it religiosity, is not it's not a social construct since it's a mental phenomena, but the concept of it is a social construct, if that makes sense. um, but yeah, religiosity or spirituality are mental phenomena. They're not. It's not a social construct. Religion is a social construct, but I didn't want to go there because I don't want to be controversial. Um, Crispy says Pasteur's area of interest was wine and beer, not milk. He did deal with milk, but not much. Everyone knows him for the milk, though. Bro, sorry. Beer undergoes a different process, but anyway, that's not the topic. Cosmo says higher power within man. Man's perfect evolves. Anyway, this stuff doesn't deal with my topic, so I'm moving on. He says cosmo. He's a religion I concur is a construct. No, religion. Yeah, religion is a social construct, not a hypothetical construct. When people say construct, I want them to delineate between social construct and hypothetical construct. Usually, at least usually in behavioral sciences, um, and the natural within like the natural sciences and behavioral sciences, usually when someone says construct, they're referring to a hypothetical construct, which are things that are hypothe- hypothesized to be real, but can only be inferred through the through the theoretical explanation, um, which is under investigation through that research. Whereas a social construct, social construct is not a construct. A social construct is a concept being defined through mutual social agreement. So I want to make that delineation because if someone just says construct, I'm going to assume they mean a hypothetical construct. Uh, Again, moving on from questions that don't have to do with my topic. Cosmos says, man has been drinking. I don't know. Will fans is trying to give a Muslim salute, but that's not how you spell it. I don't know if he's trying to be funny or not, so I'm not going to acknowledge that. Cosmos says, I agree. Religion is a social construct. But what if the evolution of man leads him to the discovery of his innate power? What? That doesn't even make sense. Evolution has no look. Evolution is not an intentional process. People need to understand that evolution is not an intentional process. It's not designed to get us to a higher cognitive level than we currently are. Evolution is simply, if we're talking well, if we're talking about different aspects of evolution, there's random genetic drift, which is just random mutations that alter the genes of a specific species. Then there's nat- then there's evolution through natural selection, by which a species is altered because um, the species or an individual within the species spreads its genes to its offspring, which makes it more selective fit within its environment, which means it will outsurvive its competitors and rivals. It has nothing to do with reaching an innate power or anything like that. You guys misuse terms too much. It has nothing to do with evolution. Evolution is a biological process through natural selection or random genetic drift that takes usually millions of years to happen, if not longer. Um, except in times where it can happen quite quickly, and I mean quickly in geological terms, like thousands of years. This quickly in geological terms. This can happen through certain things called spandrels, where a byproduct of some mutation or process of natural selection creates some sort of other thing that also gets selected for, but wasn't the thing they were selected for itself through the process of natural selection. Um, Either way, that has nothing to do with evolution leading to some sort of you guys you watched a little bit too much science fiction. Evolution does not necessarily lead to intelligence. Intelligence is just one of many adaptations that a species can develop to become more selectively fit within its environment. For humans, that was the case we because as certain species of human develop more complicated linguistic capabilities, that also led to them having higher cognitive abilities to de- to to have these higher language capabilities. So the higher language and higher intellect went hand in hand. You had to have this higher intellect to lead to the higher linguistic capabilities, which led to more complex communication and them being able to work together to survive within an environment which was very dangerous to them at the times. They learned to work together to do things like hunting down a massive animals like the mastodon. They learned to do things like run run animals until they died of exhaustion, which is another reason why we all are naturally built for distance running. We learn to communicate with each other to mob up against a big animal and literally run it to its exhaustion, to it died of exhaustion, or we ran it off a cliff and then we came to claim the meat, as you've seen, as Native Americans have done with bisons. That takes um, a lot of complex planning and communication, which is only done through having link, um, linguistic linguistic capabilities to do so, and to have those linguistic capabilities took a higher level of cognitive ability than the lower animals had. Not to mention, we lived in a time where a lot of modern humans at the time were dying off, and there was sort of a bottleneck process by which our ancestors survived this dying off of humans. This is why we're all the product of the subspecies of um, Homo sapiens sapien, because the regular Homo sapiens, most of them died off. So we are a subspecies of Homo sapien. We're Homo sapiens sapien, which lived on through this bottleneck process in prehistoric Eastern Africa. So, anyway, other animals have developed evolutionary niches um, within their environment to be more selectively fit. Like we have whales that can circumnavigate the world by being able to attenuate to the geomagnetic waves produced by the Earth as it spins across its axis. The Tunisian desert ant can do innate vector algebra to find its way across the desert from any from its starting point to any location, because it can make a mental representation of the sun and point, and from there project the azimuth from its starting point to where it goes out to get back home again, despite the fact that anywhere it moves around in the desert looks completely indistinguishable from any other place. The honeybees can do this too as well. They can use a similar process to fly around to forage for honey, and then they come back to their net to their nest and and perform an elaborate waggle dance, where the dance shows all the other bees within the hive how to find their food location. We can't do that. Not And also those honeybees in more um, can see more aspects of electromagnetic radiation than we can. They can see in ultraviolet. We can't. So they can also see things in ultraviolet. So intelligence is not the natural byproduct of evolution. It's just one of many adaptations that a species can acquire to become more selectively fit within its environment to survive. Um, there's nothing about religion, or constructs that lead to thinking that evolutionary biology will eventually lead man to discover his innate power. That doesn't make sense. We already, and it comes from a confusion that people have had for a long time, that we only, because of a long standing myth, that we only use 10% of our brain power. We use 100% of our brain power. If you only use 10% of your brain power, you would be on life support right now. You use all 100% of your brain. If you only use 10% of it right now, you will be in a permanent vegetative state, supported by a life support system. Um, Cosmo says you are limited evolutionary to a biological change and ignoring the psyche growth because evolution is a biological concept, bro. You cannot re you cannot redefine the term just because you want to bring in some new age bullshit. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be mean, but evolution is necessarily a biological concept. You you can't get around. You can't just take a term from which it is from its original meaning and origins just to justify something that you believe in that has no basis in evidence. He said, "What if it is psychological?" It's it's not what if. Give us a testable hypothesis for it. This is the difference between people. This is what it means to think scientifically. Claims, look, and actually this is a part. This isn't just thinking scientifically. This is just common sense 101. Any claim a person makes should be somehow testable. If a person makes any sort of claim about the world, it should be somehow testable. Simply saying what if is not a testable concept. It's not a testable claim. It doesn't work. Occult philosophy of thousands of years is predicated on the premise of evolutionary towards psychic power. Yeah, that's just simply called bullshit. They don't have any evidence for their claims. Occult is a bunch of LSD weed smoking morons that don't know what they're talking about. Evolution has always been a biological concept. It's literally called evolutionary biology. There is a such thing as evolutionary psychology. You want to know what evolutionary psychology it is? Is evolutionary psychology is the discussion of how psychological phenomena evolve through natural selection processes. Darwin himself started evolutionary psychology in his books like The Descent of Man and On the Expression of Emotions in Humans and Animals, two books that he written after his first book. In his first book, the last paragraph, he goes on to say that he believes that biological evolution will also be the starting point of how we explain human behavior. So psychology, scientific psychology has always been predicated on the fact that it is a natural science, that it is an extension of evolutionary biology, that human behavior itself is a biological is is has a biological basis, which leads to the central tenet of neuroscience. The central tenet of neuroscience is that all human behavior is a reflection of the activity of the brain. Maybe my understanding is limited. Yeah, my understanding is limited by the fact that I actually have a background in biopsychology. Okay. You are just you're just an you just like to talk about new age shit that has no basis in evidence. Here's the thing. I'm willing to change any of my beliefs in the light of evidence. in the light of evidence. But if only thing you can bring to me is a bunch of poorly made claims and fallacious arguments, I'm not going to accept what you're saying. I'll accept that you believe those things, but I'm not going to accept that they are true, or that these are rational arguments, because they're not based in evidence. Again, common sense 101. If you don't if you don't know anything else about critical thinking skills, remember this. Claims that people make should be somehow testable. And that's sort of the basis of modern science. Jacksonville Kids says science versus one's thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. Philosophy. That's not what philosophy is, though. Philosophy, like science, looks to investigate the, any and all aspects of the world, including ourselves. The difference is uh, empirical science obviously uses mostly empirical investigation, as well as some some deductive tools as well, right? Whereas philosophy is mostly a conceptual investigation, using also using mostly tools of logic. Um, but philosophy is not just one's thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. That's not it. This is why most people fail philosophy because they go into philosophy class thinking they can just talk nonsense. And they quickly learn, wait, you mean philosophy has a methodology? Yes, philosophy has a methodology. You have to learn its concepts and tools. This is why we sometimes refer to as the philosophical toolkit, learning the basic learning the basic rules of logic, learning certain philosophical concepts, learning how to make and evaluate arguments. These aren't just things that you can just ponder about and talk about. What is the sound of one hand clapping? No, that's not philosophy. Um, Jacksonville kids says scientifically versus scientifically. There's no, you're making a false distinction. What I was saying is scientism or thinking scientifically, if you want scientifically, same thing. They're just different. Anyway, thinking scientifically means using scientific reasoning. That's all that means. That's all it means. Thinking, using scientific reasoning. This is how we talk. This is why we use scientific reasoning in analytic philosophy. And why using scientific reasoning, we can look at certain things and say these people are putting ideology above facts. Like when people propose that gender is just a social construct, they're perpetuating gender ideology, but gender ideology is not tethered to hard evidence. Like, like that's what I'm trying to get through. Cosmo says tests are based on what ifs. No, tests are based on things that are measurable constructs. A test works only if the thing that they are testing has construct validity. Construct validity means that a test actually measures the phenomena which it was designed to measure. It should also have things like content validity and face validity and predictive validity. We don't need to go into all of those sorts of things. Generally, validity in terms of science means that something measures what it is designed to measure. And construct validity is a specific aspect of that. Construct validity means that This test design this test is designed to measure whatever phenomena that it was designed to quantify and measure. So, such as an intelligence test. Intelligence test is designed to measure mental aptitude as opposed to achievement. Mental aptitude is supposed to be the inherent ability or innate ability that someone possesses, as opposed to achievement, which is a matter of their educational level and background. A poorly designed intelligence test wouldn't have good construct validity because it's not whatever it's measuring isn't actually general intelligence. It's measuring something else. That wouldn't be good construct validity. Tests are not based on what ifs. You don't understand the words you're using. Jacksonville Killer's thoughts, feelings, and beliefs was not factual evidence. This is why philosophy is not factual. Philosophy is factual, my friend. You don't understand the words you are using either. Here's the thing: when philosophy does, the reason people don't understand that there's progress in philosophy is that once a field of philosophy acquires enough knowledge, it is no longer a philosophy. It becomes science. Every every branch of science was once a part of philosophy. The branches of science that were part of philosophy used to be called natural philosophy. If you go into a lot of science departments, some of them even still call them natural philosophy. Biology was natural philosophy, chemistry was natural philosophy, astronomy was natural philosophy, biology was natural philosophy, psychology was natural philosophy. The newest science that just came the newest science that just came out of philosophy is cognitive science through the works of people like Noam Chomsky and Jerry Fodor and others in the 50s and 60s. And thoughts, feelings, and beliefs are factual because thoughts, feelings, and beliefs are things called mental representations. A thought are sentences that are entokened in the brain, which are defined over computational processes. Feelings are just a different type of a different a different form of that mental representations. They're all mental representations, which are sometimes called intentional mental states. And again, calling something an intentional mental state is redundant because all mental states are intentional. Intentional means that they are about or they either are about or driving to something, directed to something. Feelings are a certain type of mental state which are more of a reflection, are an indexical sort of mental state reflecting on that person's state of being about a certain thing. Beliefs are mental states about inf- information. There are they are all a part of cognition. Therefore, they are factual. We can actually look onto the brain using different sorts of techniques like MEGs and stuff like that, and actually see parts of the brain light up when people are thinking about a certain thing. That's factual. If I told you to if I told you to do a certain math problem, I can look at an MEG and see the parts of your brain active when you're actually thinking of that math problem. Ishadan Fadad is looking at the jump in tools over 200 years ago to now and saying that that's not an evolution in thinking and tech is crazy. Even apes aren't in the Stone Age now. You know, you're confusing biological evolution with social evolution and technological advancement. Technological advancement comes through progress in science. Progress in science comes through the fact that science is one of the only is not the only, but one of the only uh, intellectual domains that is self-correcting and thereby can improve upon itself to correct to create progress. Every scientist stands on the shoulders of giants from the past who have furthered scientific progress through the things they have done, and others have worked on their because of science's ability to be skeptical and publicly verifiable. Religion hasn't gotten us anywhere in the past 2,000 years, but science has because it is self-correcting, because it is publicly verifiable, because it depends on the light of evidence. But you guys are just using the term evolution wrong. You're you're exchanging one use of evolution for another use, and then you try to and then you try to claim that that other use is the same use as the other one. It's a very it's a very notorious fallacy. When you use everyone knows that words tend to have multiple uses or meanings, things to which they refer. What is disingenuous is when you take one use of a word to swap it for another use of the word and pretend that you were always using that same sense of the word. It's very disingenuous, and it shows most of you are biologically illiterate. Like if you failed high school biology, or you never just if you never took high school biology, just say so. Stop pretending that you understand evolution when you clearly don't. Because this is ninth grade shit here. At best, this is 10th grade shit here. So just say you fail biology without saying you fail biology. Agnes says like, share, and subscribe. Drop a super chat or buy Just A Contrarian a coffee. Thanks. I'm about to go, Agatha, because most of these people, yeah. So, in any case, I think I've made it clear, but I'm gonna summarize again. Social construct is a concept used in the behavioral and social sciences to define a concept through mutual social agreement. However, the concept doesn't necessarily refer to an actual object, something that is real or objective. Okay, something like family or religion, social construct. However, sometimes people will call things that are real social constructs for ideological reasons. They will call gender a social construct for ideological reasons, despite the fact that good reason, there's both good reason and evidence to support that gender is something that can't be completely divorced from biological sex. And again, when you talk about race and intelligence, these are sometimes called social constructs for a matter of ideology. Again, just like people like to call gender a social construct because they favor gender ideology, people who favor racial egalitarianism will try to say race and intelligence are social constructs because they believe that acknowledging that races are real, that intelligence is, and that intelligence is innate leads to scientific racism. But you can acknowledge realism without acknowledging scientific racism. And again, the social construct is different from a hypothetical construct. A hypothetical construct is something that is hypothesized to be real, but can only be inferred through a theoretical explanation. Go back to Africa, go back to knuckle dragging in the swamps of southern Europe, bitch. I've been in, my family has lived in America longer than yours, you knuckle dragging sheep fucking cave dweller. I can trace my lineage back to Thomas Jefferson. Black Americans, foundational Black Americans, have been in this country since 1619, a year before the Mayflower arrived, when the first slave ships arrived in Jamestown, Virginia in 1619. The Mayflower pack arrived in New England in 1620. So try again. I'm more American than anyone here. I can trace my lineage back to Thomas Jefferson, and I have the DNA to prove it. Try again, bitch. Matter of fact, my sister was even on an episode of Oprah Winfrey when they showed the descendants of Thomas Jefferson. I'm not going to say who she was because I'm not going to put out our real identity on social media. But my sister was literally on and the episode of Oprah Winfrey when they were talking about the descendants of Thomas Jefferson. Falco Alapex says, fun fact, in 1912, Ernest Stromer discovered Spinosaurus aegypticus. During an expedition in Africa, the fossils were transported to Germany where it was put on display until it was destroyed during World War II. Cool, but not necessarily part of this topic, brother. Cosmo Shield says, we are all Americans. Come on, people. Yeah, exactly. Well, some of us are. But anyway, I just deflated Jason's whole incel alt-right argument. A lot of these little white supremacists only exist online because they are nothing in real life. Here's the thing. Most most white supremacists can't function in everyday life because their beliefs aren't their beliefs aren't how do I put it nicely? Wait, why am I putting it nicely? Fuck that. Their their beliefs don't lead to a successful life. Period. um, that's why you only see these little dweeby alt right white supremacist people on Twitter and in the comment sections of YouTube and Instagram because they have no lives in real life. If you see what these people look like in real life, they look like they're missing a chromosome. He said, "Don't fall for the trap." It's not falling for the trap. Again, I want people to understand I'm Generation X. I am going to clap back. My whole generation roasted each other for fun when we were kids. We literally just roasted each other for fun. So when I have some little dweeb incel trying to roast me, I'm going to fire back, and it hurts their feelings. It hurts the feelings of some white supremacists to know that I'm more American than he is. I can actually trace my lineage back to one of the founding fathers, the one who wrote who wrote the Declaration of Independence. So I'm more American than any fucking white supremacist. Tell me to go back to Africa? Nah, go back to Southern Europe. Go back to Eastern Europe. Because I guarantee there's no British people talking about go back to Africa. It's always oh, I'm gonna try to be nice. It's always some white person who comes from one of the lesser European countries. I should put it that way. It's always the racist white supremacists are always white people from the lesser European countries, not from the good ones, the make up the ones who make up the leadership of the EU. They're the ones that's dragging it down. Falco says just spreading fun facts. Alex's Levy channel. If a lesbian has fat fingers, can she be considered well hung? Asking for a friend. That's pretty funny, but not germane to my topic. Um. Anyway, so guys, I'm about to go. John Stewart says someone has over there got a chip on it. No, I wasn't. I was answering the white supremacist, dude. You weren't in the mix. Here's the thing. You almost all of you sitting there saying that I'm being aggressive, that I have a chip on my shoulder, are younger people. You don't realize that our generation was very mean to each other and snarky, which means we don't take things as personally as your generations. Millennials and Gen Z are softer than Gen X. Gen X, guys, you should really watch a documentary on Generation X. We were very mean to each other. Notice we are the smallest generation out of the four ones right now: baby boomers, Generation X, millennials, and Gen Z. A lot of us didn't survive. The ones who are still alive now, we are the strongest. But in all seriousness, look, we were a very snarky generation. And again, we used to pass the time by roasting each other for fun. So we have a we're made of we're made of sterner stuff. So when people insult us, we're going to insult them back, and they can't take it. A lot of them can't take what they give out, and then be like, "Oh, why are you being so mean?" I'm not being mean. I'm just dishing out what you gave. Thugging says your daddy made you when he came back from World War II. How old do you fucking think I am, dude? You're so fucking historically illiterate. You don't realize that World War II ended in 1945. You fucking idiot. Why don't you go back to doing perks in Mali? You fucking retard, Gen Z deject. You look like you pushing 80. That's what your mother said. Pushing 80 inches of dick in her mouth. And he's saying you're a baby boomer because you have gray hair. Dude, you realize, all right, this is how stupid people are. You realize most people in their 40s, sometimes in their 30s, I started having gray hair in my 20s. It's a genetic thing. A lot of you are fooled by celebrities who are in their 40s, 50s, and 60s who don't have gray hair because they dye their hair. If you weren't aware of that, all you had to do is look back at 2020 when all these celebrities were not being as well coiffed as they usually are in front of the camera. And you saw all of them with gray hair, and you realize, damn, all these people had gray hair. People like Puffy and all these like almost every celebrity in their 40s or 50s had gray hair. I'm I'm in my 40s, so yes, I have gray hair, and I've had gray hair since my 20s. Because some of you are so fucking retarded, you wouldn't know that. So this is why I don't take. If you are under the age of 30, stick with TikTok because you're fucking dumb. You guys have short attention spans, you have low IQ, and you have low testosterone. You walk around with guns in your man purses with your colored fingernails. and colored dreads with pink coming out your beards. Bunch of fanooks. Crispy says, never take what people say personally 100. That's the truth. Yeah, Crispy, they don't understand. I'm going to throw back whatever energy they give me. They can't take their own energy they give out, so they think you're being mean. They don't, like I said, if you come here roasting me, I'm going to roast you back. Besides that, if you are so offended by an older person being snarky, then why are you as a younger person insulting someone who is your elder? Again, even at my age, I'm not going to clap at someone who's 20 years older than me out of respect for that person. And definitely when I was their age, I wouldn't do it either. If I'm 13, if I'm 23, I'm not clapping at, I'm not going to go at someone who's my elder because of respect. Because most of these single mother born fatherless little bastards don't know how to talk to men. They don't realize there's a certain way you talk to men out of respect. Because as Kevin Samuels used to always say, there's always there's always a low level threat of violence between men. This is why men give each other a certain level of respect. Because once you cross that line, violence can ensue. But they haven't been taught that because they've been around their single mothers all their lives, so they don't know how to be respectful towards other men, and it gets them caught up. And they think being under the anonymity of a digital screen, they can just be disrespectful to people. Problem is that they tend to act that way in real life too, and you can keep acting that way, but you're gonna come across someone who won't give a shit about their life, their job, their freedom, and they will punch you in the mouth, if not worse. Words of wisdom. But hey, I'm just a contrarian. On that note, I'm about to go, guys. Agnes says, I'm so sad for my generation. Some of you are good, though, Agatha. Some of you are good. Crispy says, I'm 42, no gray hair. He said, but I am bald. Right. And then that's another thing. Some people my age are bald. Notice I still have a healthy head of hair. I've seen people going bald in their 20s. In their 20s. Some of my friends cut their hair bald now because they're bald up here. I'm not bald here. I don't have no matter male pattern baldness as of yet, because and I'm in my mid 40s. So, but yes, I gray. It's genetic. Some people bald, some people gray, some people neither. It's genetic. Another thing some people don't know, which is a recent discovery, some people's gray can go back to colored. So, but in any case, claiming that I'm beyond middle age because I have gray hair is the dumbest thing I ever heard. It just shows he's young and stupid. I love history says hi. Crispy says LOL, just kidding. Red Scorpion says not many can pull off the turtleneck brother. Salute. Thank you, man. I'm on my Michael Keaton Batman 1989 thing right now. Agatha says our generation has no respect for their elders. Clearly, like Agatha, seriously, if I was a young, I know people are gonna say, "Oh, you just capping." I'm not. Look, if I'm in my 20s and I go into like a live stream, I'm not gonna sit there and insult the content creator who's like 20, 30 years older than me just because I can do it. Yes, I can do it, but should I do it? No. Why? Now, if he insulted me, then sure, all game, all things are equal. But unless he insulted me, I have no reason to insult him. Like, I don't understand thinking just because you can do it that you should do it. Other than the fact that a lot of these dudes have never been raised around men. So, Red Scorpion says, "Did you ever check out the Pit comics? I reread the. I forgot about that, man. I'll make a note of it um, as soon as I get off Pit Comics. Uh, I was about to write it down. I'll remember it. Pit Comics. Pit Comics. I just have to keep mentally rehearsing it so I remember. Because you talked about that with me a long time ago and I completely forgot, man. I'm sorry. Um, Nickel Dill says, "Hey yo, Denzel's brother." I wish. I would. Um, but hey, that's coming from a dude. My ex girlfriend said I look like Denzel. I was like, no, I don't. But I realized she was trying to compliment me. She thought she thought I was good looking. But hey, I'll take that all day. Pause. Pause. But yeah, if if someone thinks I look like Denzel's brother, I'm I won't knock that. People keep trying to say I look like Giancarlo Esposito, the guy who played Gus Fring from Breaking Bad. He's played every bad guy in the past 10 years, guys. So it's like I don't know why they keep referencing Breaking Bad. It's like, did you guys not watch Mandalorian? Um, did you guys never watch The Boys? He's also about to play a bad guy in this new Captain America movie. Like he's like the go-to bad guy for everything, and he's been around since the '80s. He was in a bunch of Spike Lee films. That's where I first knew him. The first thing I ever saw him in was in School Days. If you didn't see School Days, watch it. Like if you pledged a not going to say anyway, if you pledged a fraternity in college, one of the things they used to tell their their uh their potential pledges to do, they was like, you need to watch School Days because School Days is very I'll just say this. School Days was a very accurate depiction of being um in process, as they call it. They don't call it pledging anymore because pledging means hazing. So they call it being in process. Um, when you're one of the brothers, um, when you become one of the line brothers, um, you in process until you cross the burning sands. Some of you know what I'm talking about if you've been in the black fraternity. In any case, they told you would have to watch School Days. Oh no, they will say you should watch School Days so you could sort of get an inclination of the process. And then they will also tell you to buy the book called the Divine Nine. The Divine Nine referred to all the historically black Greek lettered organizations. But anyway, going back to School Days, which was an early Spike Lee movie, Giancarlo Esposito was the president of the fraternity that Spike Lee's character was pledging. So he was a sort of, I won't say a bad guy, but he was sort of like a bad guy all the way back then from the very first time I ever seen him in a movie. And people said I look like him. I don't think I look anything like him because again, he's half Italian. That's why his name is Giancarlo Esposito. But in any case, Punish tries to clown me. He says, "Stay in that position. I'm almost close to finishing you, finishing in you." Um, Clearly, he's thinking of his mother because that's the only one that would let him touch her with his little scribbled up, genetically deformed, cave dwelling dick. Not I. Nah. I don't roll that way, my friend. But I'm sure your mother does because she's the only one that would love you enough to ever let you touch her. Because no other woman would. If any woman would allow you to touch them, you wouldn't be on here trying to clown right now. But you're an undesirable incel who can only live vicariously online because you have no life in the real world. You're a loser in real life. You probably look like Quasimodo. But I could be wrong. But again, I'm just a contrarian. However, I'm going to go, guys. If anyone has any other questions about social constructs versus hypothetical constructs, or why gender is or isn't a social construct, why race is or isn't a social construct, why intelligence is or isn't a construct, you can leave it in the comment section. If you have other examples of social constructs, leave it in the comment section. As far as talking about evolution and stuff, that had to be saved for another day, not in this comment section, because evolution is not a social construct, and I don't think there was any debate that there is. But if that is a question, we can put that up there as well. All right. Agatha, thank you. She said, okay, thanks. Have a blessed night. Crispy says, good night. Take care, bro. Thank you, man. Like I said, we can disagree on things, but we can still be amicable about it, right? And it's so weird that people think you can only be amicable with people if you agree with them on everything. We live in some soft times. I grew up in a time where we could disagree about just about everything and be good friends. So I'll leave you guys with that note. All right. Take care.